Hello, this is Cecilia Towns, the Sporty Esquire, and you are here with me for another episode of Workin Women Wednesday, the series where I tell you the things that I learned and am learning from my experience as an athlete, as an attorney, and as an entrepreneur in hopes that you will be a big winner at life. So last week we talked about something that was pretty serious, which is sexual harassment. And I told you that I would be starting a series on the blog that showed you how to deal with sexual harassment. Definitely be on the lookout for that. That's coming this Friday, so get on the blog. And today we're going to talk about conflict, but less severe conflict. So we're not talking about conflict that is sexual or physical or overtly offensive in nature. We're not talking about somebody cussing you out. If you have those type of issues, you take those directly to HR, directly to your management. We're just talking about the regular conflict that everybody will endure at some point at work. And I know so much about this because I get called in when the conflict gets mismanaged. So I want to prevent you from dealing with the conflict that has escalated to the point where an attorney has to get involved. Okay? So the first thing you're going to do when you realize you have conflict at work is you are going to remind yourself that you're what? An adult. You are a grown woman. Yes. And because you're a grown woman, that means you're going to act a certain way. So many cases that come across my desk, you would literally think they're 3-year-olds in a sandbox, but that's not you. You're an adult. So as an adult, you're going to use your words. You are going to talk through issues. You are going to respect your coworker, meaning you're going to listen to what they have to say. You are going to respect your boundaries. You're not going to be the person who's eating people's food out of the refrigerator. You're not going to be the person who is talking on the phone extra loudly, who is playing their music extra loudly, because you're respecting other people's boundaries. And when you come in contact with those people who are doing those, childlike things at work, you're going to remember that you are still an adult. And so you're going to take your time and use your words. I have seen plenty of disagreements at work that have been escalated to claims of harassment that really just started about a disagreement on how to get a project done. And if people would have just talked about them, they would have saved themselves a lot of heartache, a lot of unnecessary drama. The second thing that you're going to do is you are going to remind yourself that you're a professional, a pro. And because you're a pro, you are there for a check. So you're not going to do anything at work that is going to jeopardize your reason for being there, which is your paycheck, okay? And everybody is a professional. I don't care if you're cutting hair, if you're waiting tables, if you're singing at tabletops, singing on bars, on the tabletops at bars, you're still a professional. You're still there for a check. You still have an image and a brand to uphold. Okay, so that means you are, not going to be escalating situations at work. You're going to, again, be talking, using your words. You're going to be tactful when you communicate. You are going to recognize that people have different perspectives, and you're going to respect those perspectives. Even if you don't agree with where somebody's coming from, you can still and must still be respectful of other people at work. And, one of the things I see people do that's unprofessional is that when they have a conflict, they don't use the proper chain of command, okay? So if I have a conflict with Erica at work, I should just work it out between Erica or, just talk to my immediate manager. Well, so many things that come across my desk where instead of me talking to Erica and our manager, I'll go ahead and shoot an email to the president of the company. What? The president of the company does not care about the minuscule thing that you and Erica and I are dealing with. And he doesn't have time to deal with it. That's not in the president's job description. And it really just makes me look bad that I don't know how to follow instructions, use the proper chain of command. I am unprofessional and I am not adult-like. So don't do that. Remain a professional. Use the proper avenues to deal with your conflict. So after you remind yourself that you're an adult, after you remind yourself that you're a professional and you're there for the bag, you need to then try to work it out with the person that you have the conflict with. you know, I like to often handle things in writing so that we are very clear on what is at issue. You know, I put it in an email, but it is certainly fine to pick up the phone or walk into somebody's office and talk through a problem that you might have. Now, on this point, I want to be clear. Don't be CC happy, and I don't mean CC as in my nickname. I mean carbon copy happy. And try to include everybody in the office in these conversations that you're having if they just relate to you and one or two other people, okay? Don't include the secretary, the janitor, don't include your manager, don't include the president, because their email boxes, you don't need to take up their email memory with your pettiness. It escalates situations beyond what they need to be escalated, and you really just look bad. So communicate with the people that you need to communicate with. And the communication really is, I can't stress that enough, that talking through your issues really is important. I've had cases where, they ended up being a claim for discrimination, and really at the heart of it, it was a misunderstanding. A guy had felt like his coworker was, unreasonably distant and, uncooperative. And it was really that the coworkers was just super busy. And, he didn't have time for the small talk. He didn't have time to go to lunch. They didn't agree on, how to handle certain projects, but it had nothing to do with the man's protected status. It's just, where people are in their lives. And if they had just talked that through, it would have been a whole different situation. So communicate with the person, be willing to compromise, because sometimes, everybody's not going to walk away with everything that they want. But express your concern and listen to them. But I trust me, I'm not crazy. I know that life is not full of rainbows, and that sometimes people are just not going to get along, and conflicts are not going to just be resolved between the two people. And that's when you go to step 4. That's when you bring in someone else, a third party, who can break the tie or who can help you guys communicate. A mediator, a manager, someone in HR that can help you work through this situation. And sometimes the work through is not you guys hugging it out. Sometimes the work through is like, okay, this is how we're going to manage this situation. This is how, we're not going to work together anymore. So that's what it is. You just bring in the third party when it's appropriate. It just decreases your stress. It decreases the amount of energy that you're putting in to, items that really aren't necessarily all that important at work. So when you find yourself having conflict at work, remind yourself that you're a grown woman. Remind yourself that you are there for the cash. Talk to the person you have conflict with. And if that doesn't work, then you bring in a third party. It's simple. Conflict doesn't have to just be this awful thing at work. You can deal with it and move on with your life. This has been Cecilia Towns, the Sporty Esquire, for another episode of Workin Women Wednesday. I really appreciate you joining me. Share my videos, all that stuff. Make sure, again, you check out the blog this week for the beginning of my series on sexual harassment at work. Other than that, make sure you come back next week for another episode of Workin Women Wednesday. Thanks. Bye-bye.